Ashes of the Fallen. The last human fortress on Proxima Centauri III burned. Captain Ilara Vega watched from the command deck as alien bombardment tore through the planetary shield generators. 30 years of war against the sovereignty had reduced humanity from a thriving interstellar civilization to scattered refugees clinging to a handful of worlds. Final evacuation underway, Lieutenant Cade reported, his voice flat with exhaustion. Civilian transports at 70% capacity. Ilara nodded, her eyes never leaving the tactical display. And the artifact. Secured in Bay 4. Though I still don't understand why we're risking lives for some ancient tech when we should be. Because, Ilara cut in, we've tried everything else. The Coalition wants us extinct, Lieutenant. No negotiations, no surrender terms, just extinction. The ship shuddered as enemy fire grazed their shields. The TSS Dauntless was humanity's last battle-worthy capital ship, a technological marvel now reduced to running desperate evacuation missions, while the alien armada methodically exterminated human colonies. "Captain," called the comm officer, "Admiral Chen is requesting your presence in Bay 4. Says it's urgent." The artifact had been discovered 3 weeks ago on a dead world at the edge of former human space, a derelict facility buried under mountains of stone, predating human spaceflight by millennia. At its center sat something impossible, a ship unlike anything they'd ever seen, its hull a deep crimson that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. By the time Ilara reached Bay 4, the evacuation alarms were blaring. Admiral Chen stood before the artifact, its surface pulsing with a faint red glow. "It's activating," Chen said without preamble. "Started about 10 minutes ago, when the sovereignty breached our outer defenses." Ilara approached cautiously. The artifact. No, the ship was relatively small, perhaps fighter-sized, but something about it defied conventional analysis. Its design was both organic and mechanical, flowing lines intermixed with geometric precision. "Our scientists can't make sense of it," Chen continued. "But it's responding to something. Maybe proximity to danger, maybe it senses the sovereignty. Or maybe it's just a trap," Ilara suggested. Chen shook his head. "I don't think so. The facility we found it in. The writing wasn't alien. It was human, Ilara. Pre-collapse human from Earth's first expansion era. This thing was built by our ancestors." The ship's surface rippled suddenly, like liquid metal, and a seam appeared along its side. It was opening. "Captain." Cade's voice crackled over her comm. "Sovereignty destroyers have broken through the defensive line. 2 minutes to weapons range." Chen looked at her, determination hardening his features. "We're out of options, Captain. Either we take a chance on this, or humanity ends today." Ilara approached the opening in the ship's hull. Inside was a single chamber with what looked like a pilot's cradle, organic in design, more like a cocoon than a seat. "I'll take it out," she said. "Cover the civilian evacuation with the Dauntless." "That wasn't the plan," Chen protested. "We don't know what this will do to you. And we don't have time to find out," Ilara countered. "The Dauntless needs her captain, and I'm the most qualified pilot we have." Before Chen could argue further, Ilara stepped into the crimson ship, the opening sealed behind her, and the interior illuminated with a soft red glow. The cradle adjusted as she approached, opening to receive her. As she settled into it, the material closed around her body like a second skin. Pain lanced through her as microscopic filaments penetrated her flight suit, seeking contact with her flesh. She screamed, but there was no one to hear her. And then, synchronization initiated. The voice wasn't audible. It resonated directly in her mind. "Host compatible. Neural interface established. I am the Crimson Phoenix, final deterrent of the human Imperium." Ilara gasped as information flooded her consciousness. Star charts, weapon systems, history spanning thousands of years. This vessel wasn't just a ship. It was a living weapon created during humanity's forgotten golden age. "The enemy approaches. They must not recover this technology. Shall we engage, Captain Vega?" "Yes," Ilara whispered, feeling the ship's systems integrating with her nervous system. Let's show them what humanity can do. The Phoenix launched from the Dauntless like a streak of blood against space. Ilara felt, rather than controlled its movement, her thoughts translated instantly into action. The Sovereignty Fleet, 17 capital ships with fighter escorts, registered as glowing threats in her mind's eye. Enemy targeting systems acquired. Analyzing weapons capabilities. Inferior. The first Sovereignty destroyer fired. A barrage of plasma that would have vaporized a conventional fighter. The Phoenix simply shifted. Not evasion in the traditional sense. The ship partially phased out of normal space, the energy passing harmlessly through. "What are you?" Ilara whispered in awe. "I am humanity's vengeance," the Phoenix responded. "Created to ensure our species could never be extinguished." They accelerated toward the Sovereignty command ship, a massive dreadnought at the fleet's center. The Phoenix's weapons activated, not conventional armaments, but something that distorted space-time itself. The first shot ripped through a destroyer's quantum shields as if they didn't exist, the vessel breaking apart like it had been struck by an invisible fist. The second shot did the same to another. By the third, the alien fleet was scrambling to reposition. "Dauntless, this is Vega," Ilara transmitted. "Get those civilians out now. I'll keep the Sovereignty occupied." "Captain," Cade's voice came back, tinged with awe. "What are you flying?" "Humanity's last hope," she replied. "Now go." The Phoenix danced through the enemy formation, impossible to track, impossible to hit. Each attack from the Crimson vessel destroyed another Sovereignty ship. Ilara felt godlike, unstoppable. Until the command ship's hangar opened, and something emerged that caused the Phoenix to recoil in recognition. Sovereign-class inhibitor detected. Caution advised. A vessel similar to the Phoenix but larger, its hull a deep obsidian rather than crimson, moved to intercept them. Ilara felt a chill as her ship's anxiety filtered through their neural bond. They should not possess this technology. It was destroyed during the purge. "What is that thing?" Ilara demanded as they narrowly avoided the black ship's first attack, a beam that distorted space itself. "My counterpart, where I was built to protect, it was built to conquer." An abomination created from stolen technology. The two vessels engaged in combat unlike anything Ilara had witnessed. Reality itself seemed to warp around them as they maneuvered. The black ship was powerful, but Ilara sensed hesitation in its movements. Unlike the Phoenix, it wasn't fully synchronized with its pilot. "We cannot defeat it at current capacity," the Phoenix warned. "System integration is only at 40%. What do you need to reach full capacity?" Ilara asked as they barely avoided another attack. "Complete neural integration, but the process is irreversible and will fundamentally alter your physiology." Ilara watched as the civilian transports jumped to safety, the Dauntless covering their retreat. Her ship had bought them time, but the black vessel was gradually gaining the upper hand. "Will it give us a chance to win?" she asked. "Yes, but you will no longer be entirely human." Ilara thought of Earth, of the billions already lost, of humanity fighting extinction. "Do it," she commanded. Pain unlike anything she'd experienced before coursed through her body as the Phoenix's systems fully merged with her nervous system. Her consciousness expanded, perception shifting beyond human limitations. She saw energy flows, probability vectors, the underlying structure of space-time itself. And she saw the truth about the Sovereignty. "They're not trying to exterminate us," she gasped as the revelation hit her. "They're harvesting us. Our genetic material, our neural patterns. They're stealing what makes us human." "Yes," the Phoenix confirmed. "As they have done to countless species before. The ships you destroy are not crewed by aliens, but by hollow shells animated by stolen consciousness." The black ship attacked again, but this time the Phoenix responded with newfound power. Ilara guided it not with thought, but with pure instinct, the vessel now truly an extension of herself. They struck the enemy vessel with a concentrated burst of spatial distortion. rupturing its quantum core. The black ship flickered, its systems failing, as the Phoenix pressed the advantage. It is done, the Phoenix communicated as the enemy vessel disintegrated, but the Sovereignty will send more. They fear what humanity might become. Ilara turned their attention to the remaining alien fleet, now retreating. She could pursue, destroy them all. But a different strategy was forming in her transformed mind. No, she said. Let them run. Let them tell their masters what they saw here, because we're not running anymore. She guided the Phoenix back toward the Dauntless, knowing that the war had just entered a new phase. Humanity had found its Phoenix, rising from the ashes of near extinction. And the Sovereignty would soon learn what it meant to face a species that refused to die. Rising from the flames. 3 months after the battle at Proxima Centauri, humanity was no longer on the brink of extinction. The Crimson Phoenix had turned the tide, allowing refugee fleets to regroup at Alpha Centauri, humanity's last untouched stronghold. But victory remained elusive. Ilara stood before the War Council, her appearance subtly altered by her bond with the Phoenix. Her skin had a faint luminescence, and her eyes shifted between normal brown and a deep crimson when she accessed the ship's vast knowledge. The Sovereignty is pulling back to their core systems, she reported. They've abandoned 37 worlds they conquered from us, but they're fortifying a defensive perimeter around Epsilon Eridani. Admiral Chen studied the strategic display. Why Epsilon? It's not their homeworld. Because, Ilara said, it's where they're processing their harvests. The Phoenix has analyzed their communication patterns. Epsilon is their primary conversion facility, where they strip captured beings of their consciousness and implant it into their machines. Horror spread across the faces of the assembled military leaders. They're not just killing our people, Cade, now promoted to commander, said softly. They're repurposing them. Yes, Ilara confirmed, and based on the data we've recovered, they've been doing this for millennia. The Sovereignty isn't a species, it's a technological parasite that's consumed countless civilizations. Then we have to hit Epsilon, General Santos declared. Free our people if possible, destroy the facility if not. Ilara shook her head. It's too heavily defended. The Phoenix is powerful, but even it can't break through their core defense grid alone. Then what do you propose, Captain? Chen asked. Ilara waved her hand, and the holographic display shifted to show a different star system. This is Ta City. According to the Phoenix's historical records, it contains a facility similar to the one where we found the ship. There might be more vessels like the Phoenix there, or at least technology we can use. Can we trust this information? Santos asked. No offense, Captain, but that ship has changed you. How do we know it's not manipulating you for its own purposes? Because we share the same purpose, Ilara replied simply. The Phoenix was created to ensure humanity's survival. That's all it wants, all we want. The mission to Ta City was approved, though not without reservation. The Dauntless, now retrofitted with technology derived from studying the Phoenix, would accompany Ilara. If they found what they were looking for, humanity might finally have a fighting chance. The journey took 2 weeks. Ilara spent most of it in communion with the Phoenix, exploring the vast repository of knowledge stored within its systems. What she discovered about humanity's past both awed and terrified her. We've fallen so far, she told Cade during one of her rare appearances in the Dauntless mess hall. The civilization that built the Phoenix. They'd spread across thousands of worlds. They had technology that could reshape planets, harness the energy of stars. What happened to them? Cade asked. Civil war, Ilara replied grimly. The factions that created the Phoenix and those that created its dark counterparts eventually destroyed each other. What survived? Our ancestors were colonial remnants that had to rebuild from almost nothing. Ta City loomed before them, a yellow star much like Earth's sun. The 4th planet was their destination, a seemingly barren world with no signs of habitation. But the Phoenix detected what human sensors could not. Energy signatures buried deep beneath the surface. They landed near the coordinates, and Ilara led a team into what appeared to be natural caverns, but were actually the remains of a vast underground complex. The Phoenix guided them through collapsed corridors and sealed chambers until they reached a massive door inscribed with symbols identical to those found with the Crimson ship. "It's a production facility," Ilara explained as engineers worked to open the sealed entrance, where the Phoenix and others like it were created. When the doors finally yielded, they revealed not the armada of Crimson ships they'd hoped for, but something perhaps more valuable: an intact database and manufacturing center. "We can't mass-produce Phoenixes," Ilara explained after interfacing with the facility systems. "Each requires a unique quantum core that takes decades to cultivate. But we can adapt their defensive technology to our existing ships." For 6 weeks, they worked tirelessly. The Dauntless was transformed, its conventional systems replaced with technology derived from the Phoenix. Additional ships arrived from Alpha Centauri, each receiving similar upgrades. Ilara led the effort, her enhanced mind able to understand and implement the ancient designs in ways that would have been impossible for conventional engineers. Then came the moment they'd been preparing for. "Sovereignty fleet detected," announced the Dauntless tactical officer. 7 capital ships, including 1 black vessel. They had been discovered. But this time, humanity was ready. "Launch all ships," Admiral Chen ordered. "Captain Vega, take point with the Phoenix." The battle that followed would later be called the Miracle at Ta City. 12 upgraded human vessels against a technologically superior enemy force. But the Sovereignty had never faced humans wielding their own ancient technology against them. Ilara led the charge, the Phoenix cutting through the alien formation like a blade through flesh. The human ships followed, their new defenses allowing them to withstand attacks that would have previously vaporized them instantly. The black ship, a newer, larger model than the one they'd encountered at Proxima, engaged the Phoenix directly. This time, however, Ilara wasn't fighting alone. Coordinated attack pattern established, the Phoenix communicated. Weakness detected in enemy quantum matrix. 3 human destroyers synchronized their fire with the Phoenix, targeting the black ship's vulnerability. The enemy vessel's defenses collapsed, and Ilara delivered the killing blow. A precision strike that caused the ship to implode, creating a localized distortion that dragged 2 nearby Sovereignty vessels into oblivion with it. It was over in less than an hour, a decisive victory that proved humanity could not only survive but win. "We should press the advantage," General Santos urged during the strategy session that followed. "Hit their conversion facility at Epsilon while they're reeling." "No," Ilara countered. "We attacked their homeworld." Silence fell over the command room. "Their homeworld is a fortress," Chen said carefully. "Even with our new capabilities, it would be suicide." "Not if we understand what we're really fighting," Ilara explained. "The Sovereignty isn't a conventional empire. It's controlled by a central consciousness, the original parasite that started harvesting other species eons ago. The Phoenix has helped me piece this together from fragmented historical records." She manipulated the holographic display, showing a massive structure orbiting a red giant star. "This is the Sovereignty Nexus. Destroy it, and their entire network collapses. And you think we can reach it?" Santos asked skeptically. "Yes," Ilara said with absolute certainty, "because they don't believe we know it exists." The assault on the Sovereignty Nexus required every ship, every resource humanity could muster. A one-way mission with slim chances of success, but the alternative was slow, inevitable extinction. As they approached the red giant, reality itself seemed to bend around them. The Nexus was surrounded by spatial distortions that would have been impossible to navigate without the Phoenix's guidance. "They're using the star's energy to warp space-time," Ilara explained as she led the fleet through the invisible maze. "A defense system beyond anything we've encountered." The Nexus itself defied conventional description. Part space station, part living organism, stretching hundreds of kilometers across. At its center pulsed a blinding light that the Phoenix identified as the sovereign consciousness. All ships, engage outer defenses, Admiral Chen commanded from the Dauntless. Captain Vega, you have primary objective. Ilara guided the Phoenix through the chaos of battle, evading automated defenses that became increasingly desperate as they approached the Nexus core. Then, a transmission cut through their communications, a voice that seemed to speak in multiple tones simultaneously. You cannot stop what began before your species learned to make fire, it said. We are eternal. We are inevitable. Your resistance only delays the inevitable harvest. Why? Ilara demanded. Why do this to us, to countless others? Evolution through consumption, the voice replied. Each species we absorb adds to our perfection. Humans are particularly valuable. Your capacity for adaptation, for survival against overwhelming odds, is unmatched. We do not destroy, we elevate. By stealing our consciousness, our very essence, Ilara countered. That's not elevation. It's parasitism. They had reached the core barrier now, a shimmering field of energy that the Phoenix couldn't penetrate directly. Conventional approach impossible. The ship communicated. Alternative strategy required. Ilara understood immediately what needed to be done. Admiral, pull all ships back to minimum safe distance, she ordered. Captain, Chen questioned. The Phoenix can breach the core, but not as a physical entity. We need to convert to pure energy, a quantum state conversion. That's a one-way transformation, Chen protested, understanding dawning. You won't survive. Humanity will, Ilara replied simply. That's what matters. Before further objections could be raised, the Phoenix accelerated toward the barrier, its systems reconfiguring for the final transformation. Synchronization complete, the ship communicated, a note of something like pride in its mental voice. It has been an honor, Captain Vega. The honor was mine. Ilara whispered as her physical form began to dissolve, merging completely with the Phoenix's quantum core. The Crimson ship struck the barrier and erupted into pure energy, a focused wave of quantum disruption that pierced the Nexus's defenses. Ilara's consciousness, now one with the Phoenix, expanded through the alien system like a virus, seeking the central intelligence that controlled the sovereignty. She found it, ancient beyond imagining, a consciousness that had consumed countless others, spreading across the galaxy like a cancer. For a moment, it recognized her, tried to assimilate her transformed mind. But Ilara wasn't just human anymore. She was the Phoenix, humanity's guardian, its vengeance, its future. The quantum disruption cascaded through the Nexus, the energy release visible as a crimson wave that engulfed the massive structure. Throughout the galaxy, sovereignty ships suddenly lost power, their controlling intelligence severed. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Admiral Chen watched in silence as the Nexus collapsed in on itself, dragged into the gravity well of the red giant. Captain Vega. He called over the comm. Ilara. There was no response, only the dissipating energy signature of what had once been the Crimson Phoenix. 3 days later, as the human fleet prepared to return to Alpha Centauri, sensors detected an anomaly near the system's edge, a small energy signature, familiar yet different. When they investigated, they found not one but dozens of Crimson ships, each pulsing with the same energy that had characterized the Phoenix. She found them, Cade said in wonder. Somehow, she accessed the Nexus production facilities before destroying it. As they approached, a transmission reached the Dauntless, not in words, but in pure thought, carrying the unmistakable essence of Ilara Vega. We are the Phoenix now. We will ensure humanity never falls again. The war was over. The harvesting had ended, and humanity, like the mythical bird of fire, had risen from its own ashes, transformed, evolved, eternal. The sovereignty had sought to consume humanity's essence. Instead, humanity had consumed the consumer, taking the very weapon meant for their destruction and making it their salvation. In the vast darkness between stars, the Crimson Fleet waited, guardians of a species that refused to be extinguished.